What's going on, guys? It's John here from Hot Take Hockey to discuss the big William Nylander contract situation with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So obviously William Nylander is an RFA, a restricted free agent without a contract. He's looking to get a big payday coming right out of his entry-level deal. So this guy drafted 8th overall in the 2014 draft, 62 points last year. It's one of those things. Obviously, 2 years in a row, he's getting consistent numbers, but is he getting the numbers that gets what he wants in terms of a payday? This guy, along represented by his agent, Louis Gross, he's looking for an $8 million paycheck per year, might I add. So an $8 million AAV, is William Nylander worth that? We're going to discuss it in this video. So, of course, it's between these two guys, obviously, Kyle Dubas and William Nylander. It's one of those things. Kyle Dubas and the Leafs want $6 million. William Nylander wants $8 million. So $2 million separated by these two sides. It's a lot. It might not, on paper, it's a lot. It is a lot. So the thing is, the first thing that people think about when they want to get around a contract dispute, if they deserve this amount of money, if they don't, is player comparables. So I'm going to look through that, as well as where William Nylander's ceiling is, where he is right now, where I think he could go, and if he did hypothetically sign that $8 million AAV contract, would he end up living to the hype? Because obviously, something to keep in mind as I talk through this video, William Nylander was drafted as a centerman. So that's just something to keep in mind. But of course, I'm going to go literally straight into the comparables. So on the left side is exactly what Kyle Dubas is looking to get, about $6 million. And I kind of added the range of $6 to $6.75 million because I see that as kind of a cap to where the Leafs will go is $6.75 million. So starting at the top is Dylan Larkin, who was actually drafted in the same draft as William Nylander, about 6 spots later, about that. This guy has been on a struggling Red Wings team, has been the better player, has been more of a consistent player, and he's kind of at that bottom level of $6 million, but each year he's been getting about 50 plus points. Mark Scheifele is a guy obviously on a steal of a contract, is the number one franchise center in Winnipeg. Brad Marchand, you can't say enough about Brad Marchand, a top 25 player. Obviously not a huge fan favorite throughout the league, but he's loved in Boston, and he's definitely led that team to back-to-back, hopefully playoff appearances, because I feel like, or I guess back-to-back, this team is probably going again to the playoffs and probably into a deep run if that top line with Marchand. And the other guy I'm going to talk about, David Pastrnak. So another guys on the list are Marleau, who's on the Leafs, obviously, maybe a little bit overpaid. Radulov, who got 70 plus points compared to William Nylander, 62 last year. Ilya Kovalchuk, obviously, that's a little bit of a risk. But then going down after that, Nathan MacKinnon, Sean Monahan, Paul Stastny, David Pastrnak, Nicholas Backstrom, Johnny Gaudreau. So already at the range that the Leafs want is already a really skilled group of players. And I think the three that stand out for me the most as comparables is Dylan Larkin, David Pastrnak, and Johnny Gaudreau. Obviously, Larkin's more on the bottom of that scale. But for me, big comparables are David Pastrnak and Johnny Gaudreau. And in my opinion, I think Gaudreau and Pastrnak are definitely ahead on Nylander. So Nylander, say he was going to make $6.5 million. That would look really good to a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you why. David Pastrnak getting, just over 80 points last year, or in the 70 range. The last 2 years, he's been a top 2 scorer for Boston. This is a guy that last year in the playoffs destroyed the Leafs while William Nylander did little to nothing. And I'm not ripping into, and I want to confirm something, I'm not ripping into Nylander into this video. It's more of a comparing to what he wants to what's actually realistic. Another one is Johnny Gaudreau. When you think of the Calgary Flames, who do you think of? You think of Johnny Hockey. He's on a 6.75 AAV. And a lot of people are talking about that. Johnny Gaudreau was the same situation. He was asking for $8 million per year. Same agent, actually, Louis Gross. And they brought it down to 6.75 on the side of Calgary. And I think that's exactly what needs to happen with the Leafs here. Obviously, $8 million. I obviously didn't say at the start of the video, but it's too clear that $8 million is too much for this guy, and I'm going to show you some comparables on the other side. And it's a little small there, but I can list through the names. You got names like Tarasenko, Kuznetsov, Johansson, Getzlaf, Kessel. That's all in the $8 million range. The Leafs signed Kessel to an $8 million range. Kessel's been a 30-point guy last year, 80-plus points. You can't really compare where Kessel is to where Nylander is if there's no guarantee that Nylander could be what they're projecting when they're proposing this contract. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. I think William Nylander at this point is going to be a top 6 winger for sure. I think his ceiling is definitely being a top line winger. And I think that's exactly where I go with the comparables with Johnny Gaudreau and David Pastrnak. Just to interrupt myself, I am doing this live, so anyone that's in the comments, I will get to you just after I go through my whole explanation. But with William Nylander, he's going to be a winger beside Austin Matthews. He was with Austin Matthews for about 70% of last year, only got 62 points in a full 82-game season. So that's just what I look at. I look at, okay, maybe if you want so much money, you got to settle back for a bridge deal. But both sides have made it very clear that they want a long-term. William Nylander wants to stay long-term in Toronto, and $8 million is just not going to cut it. It's too much of a risk for the Leafs. The Leafs are already stacked up against the cap, which seems really crazy, knowing 2 years ago they were at the bottom of the standings. So just to quickly look at your comments before I continue my argument, I do think William Nylander is a bit crazy to be asking for about $8 million, and I think he might settle the lowest right now in his mindset with his agent is 7.5. But just a shout out with the people that are joining me. Ghost Skittle, Aaron Hockey, Nick, Christopher. Thank you guys for joining me, of course. This video will be on the channel right after I go live. But to just, in general, what I see with Nylander is if this doesn't get resolved within the next, I'm going to say month, then the Leafs are going to really consider a trade. Because when I talk about trade rumors here, I could definitely see, and I'm not saying that it's a good situation because Justin Falk only has 1 year left on his contract, but I could see easily William Nylander going to a team like Carolina if this doesn't get resolved. Because Carolina has called, reportedly, a couple times, seeing where the situation is going and seeing if Nylander is available for trade. As of right now, it's a no from Kyle Dubas, but that could change really quickly if this doesn't get resolved. Maybe not Falk, like I said, because he is on only 1 year, and maybe a contract extension would have to be guaranteed for a trade like that to happen. But maybe Jakub Slavin is another example. He's more on term and more and definitely closer to Nylander's age. So just to wrap up the video, I think that's a trade rumor to look at. But I don't think William Nylander is worth $8 million. Where I see this going, in a positive mindset, I see in the next week or two them meeting around the middle of a Johnny Gaudreau or David Pastrnak type contract. I think, obviously, that's not the dead center middle, but it's got to go towards the Leafs side at this point. William Nylander has way more to lose being a 22-year-old and still a lot to prove in this league. So I definitely see it settling at around 6.6 to 6.75. I think that's the most realistic place to settle at in terms of avoiding Nylander to miss more games and for the Leafs to be saving as much cap as possible. So thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully William Nylander, as a Leafs fan, gets this resolved quite quickly. Look out for more trade videos or trade rumor videos to come. I added that little teaser of what could happen with Nylander and maybe the Hurricanes, but let's hope that doesn't get to that point. Obviously, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the notification bell or just subscribe. Go to YouTube, see our videos there. Watch when you please. Like the videos if you like them. Comment whether it's good or bad. We appreciate all feedback, all suggestions on what content you want to see. And I've been getting new people on the channel, so I really appreciate the support. I really appreciate seeing new people, so thank you guys so much. We'll be doing live reactions coming up. Follow me on Twitter just below there, and you can keep in touch with me on what's coming up next. And I'm always tweeting when I do go live. I tweeted about 10-15 minutes before I went live here, and it was scheduled as well on YouTube. So thank you guys. Subscribe, like, and comment, and peace out.